Hello, I'm Deb. So this is Deb's Made This, and I am a middle-aged dungaree lover. So the only way I'm going to get this done is if I do it in bits and pieces, so I'm sorry if there's not a lot of continuity. What I'm planning to do is to show you as many as I can of the dungarees that I've already made and talk through the kind of aspects of each of those patterns, and then talk about the ones that I'm planning to make. I seem to have just gone off on one and bought like 3 or 4 dungaree patterns, so you may as well have the benefit of my experience as I go through that process, I think. So if that interests you, please stay tuned. So I'll start with what I'm wearing. I will put in a bit of a twirl, could probably be there, I think. Obviously I can't put dungarees on the mannequin, which is why you've got my, what's it called? Summer Vibes dress. This is my toile for my Summer Vibes dress. So this is the most recent make. This just finished this week, I think. And this is definitely not my favourite one. It is really interesting, so we'll start with the interesting features. So this is a just released pattern by Ready to Sew. It's only done, they have 2 size bands, and it's only done her size band 1, which I think goes up to a size 48 in her sizes, but I'll link everything down below. And she'd had some problems with the drafting when it came to going up a size, which I think is probably what I'm experiencing. So it is a tie back, with adjustable ties. It has a bib and it has this interesting wrap feature. So if you've ever made a kilo wrap dress by, is that by Named? It kind of reminds me of that. It's got these kind of wings out to the side that then kind of fold in. So this is obviously, it's really good as a kind of crafting overall, something to kind of slip on over your shorts and t-shirt, or over your dungies, over your trousers if you were like doing pottery or something. Really good for cooking, all of those kinds of things. So it has a centre pocket, it has a little concealed kind of paintbrush or pen pocket, it has a large pocket on the right bum and a smaller pocket on the left bum, and then it has this kind of tie detail. There's a bias binding that goes all the way around the top, and that's what becomes the strap, and it's kind of just above ankle length on me. I'm 5'5". I think it's drafted for somebody 5'6". Probably about 2-inch hem on these, just so that it kind of sat okay. So there aren't very many pattern pieces. Obviously there's a front and a back. I'm sorry if you can hear the dog dreaming. A front and a back. You've got the 2 little ties, you've got your bias binding, and then like the various pockets and things. So it comes together easily. The instructions are reasonably straightforward. It doesn't mention the bias binding until you're quite a long way in, so just be aware of that if you make it, although that's included in the fabric allowances for the pattern. It just isn't mentioned at the start, so I kind of spotted it on my first read through, but if you're somebody who doesn't read through and just goes for it, you might not have enough bias binding. Obviously you could use ready-made bias binding, that wouldn't be a problem. I did that on one of my toiles. So to come to the issues that I had with it, now I think most of the issues are probably to do with my shape. I don't like the way that sounds, but I think it's a combination of how the pattern pieces are drafted and my shape. So I am really short from kind of shoulder to waist. My waist is really high. And on a normal, like a standard pattern, I would normally take out up to 1 inch, sometimes a little bit more out of a bodice, in order to get a pattern to fit me well. In this case, so I don't really have a lot of, you see, I can't kind of come up with this very much, because otherwise then it would be far too high. It kind of needs to sit there or below. And the issue is obviously, so the pattern gives you clear instructions how to grade if your waist is higher, in a higher bracket of size than your hips. And so you grade out across here and up. So obviously the whole of this piece gets bigger. And then the problem is, obviously I've got too much fabric here. So what I ended up doing, I made several different schemes. I put darts in, took chunks out, I tried all sorts of different things. And then I've kind of got to the position. So you can see, if I pull this down, if I pretended that my waist was here, this would sit the way that it's supposed to, with this kind of nice smooth pattern. But because my waist is actually there, I get this kind of bagging out. Now, it's all right now. I'm kind of over it. I've spent enough. I've spent 2 weekends trying to get this to fit in amidst all sorts of family bereavement and all sorts of things, and and I think that's enough time for now. I've got some exciting patterns sitting about, so I'm going to call this at this. I think this probably will still get worn. It'll probably get worn for painting in and for garden and all those kinds of things, so I will wear it. The designer was really helpful, really quick at responding to my queries and my suggestions, and kind of I said, I'm going to try this, what do you think? And she said yes. So yeah, so good dialogue with her, and I think it's just one of those things that this pattern, I can't easily get this to fit. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is these. These are the Yanto overalls by Helens Closet. This pair have been on a dog walk this morning and they are absolutely filthy. I think these are probably maybe my favourite, maybe my second favourite, and partly because these were so unexpected. So this is a colour that I don't ever wear. This was the first time I think that I sewed with viscose linen, made in 2018 I think these were. They have these very cute sheep on the inside and these very lovely silver metal buttons. I've even on this pair done some machine embroidery on the back of the pocket, which is fairly good going. So these have been worn every summer since I made them. I made them when I was about a UK size 10, 8 to 10, when I was doing an awful lot of running and weights, and I'm currently probably between a 14 and up to a 16 in UK sizes, particularly my waist is much wider. I can still get into these, yeah, with a force of will. This is a Helens Closet pattern. It was released 2017, I think. It's supposed to be kind of easy fit, and I sized down when I made it. I increased the size of the darts, both front and back, to kind of nip it in a little bit more, so I kind of felt like it was not quite so oversized. But you can, if you have a big difference between your waist and your hip, you can put a side zip in this, and she gives you instructions how to do that. This is my second version of the Yanto overalls, made in a bark cloth, kind of maybe 10-ounce denim. No idea where that came from. These are a 2018 or a 2019 make. I have used white coloured quilting cotton on the inside. Do not do this, because if you do it, when you've got them on, that you get, it doesn't matter how well you understitch and stitch down the facings and all that, you get this little peak of white every now and then. I do not like it. I must remember not to use a pale bib fabric in my dungarees because it makes me distressed. Now originally these had a ceramic button on the front which came from Wim Wam Buttons, which are a potteries company, which unfortunately I don't think are trading any longer, but they make beautiful ceramic buttons. And so I echoed the ceramic button with one of my first pieces of worn embroidery. Now one of the buttons broke, unfortunately, which is obviously a hazard when using ceramic buttons, and so I've replaced them with some that are a little bit more hard wearing but a lot more dull. But these have been worn. These are worn summer and winter. They get stolen by one of the kids when theirs are dirty. Yeah, proper love these. You can, yeah. They fulfil all the dungaree requirements in the world, I think, this pair of dungarees. And I've also made a pair for my youngest child and my oldest child. One of them in denim and the other one in twill. And I just, for my sister, I made her a pair as well in a viscose linen. She had them on last week, actually, when she was ringing me. Yeah, I really like this pattern. Helens Closet instructions are always excellent, like really properly good. The only thing that I found difficulty with, from memory, was this kind of the back detail here, but it looks alright. It looks like I got there in the end. I just remember it being a little bit tricky. So these, I used the Jenny overalls pattern from Closet Core, and then combined it with the Cosecha pants leg to get a narrow leg or narrower leg. So the Jenny overalls, I'll put a picture in, are designed to have a wide leg, like properly wide leg. I have a pair of burgundy cord ones. I'll have to put a picture because they're in the lot. The burgundy dashwood stretch cord, which again are years old and get worn and worn and worn, and I've made them in a crop length with a really wide leg, and I love them paired with like long boots underneath. Really nice dungarees. But I wanted a pair for spring and summer, and so I had this very dark stretchy denim in my stash. Now this pattern is not for stretch, and obviously I have made both pairs out of a woven with a bit of stretch, but it just means you've got a bit more kind of give in things. What I will say, so this pattern again is a really old pattern. I'll put on the screen if I can find out when it was released, but ages and ages ago. I really like it because it has that fitted band at the waist, so for me it seems to really work. I really like how that looks. It's got, you can put back pockets on it, and it does have front pockets, but I don't normally put them on, just because I tend to find that they kind of gape out a little bit, and I don't really like how that looks. I also think on the first pair that I ever made, I made a pair of trousers first of all, and I really struggled with the problem with the bulk with the side zip and the pocket together. And so I've omitted the front pockets on each of the versions since then. And the only issue I have is when I'm dog walking, is because I do like to be able to have some treats in my pocket, but I've got a kind of over the shoulder bag that I tended to use. So these are, yes, my kind of Jenny hack. And I love these. I have worn them loads and loads and will continue to do so. And it just reminds me that I probably want to make, and what I might try and do is make a pair of Cosechas with a bib on as well, just because I really like that pattern. I'll put that on there. Right, ready to sew jazz dungarees. So this is one version of 84 patterns that you can make from this workbook. I have done the curved bib, the cropped wide leg, and there's a zip up the back, but I shall put some pictures of all the different variations. Dresses, tops, jumpsuits, dungarees, shorts, skirts, etc, 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 so you can kind of mix and match all those elements. So it can be a little bit overwhelming, so I would advise you to choose your pages that you print of just the one that you want to do, and then it's not quite so disconcerting. These were made in a cotton sateen, which I think is probably an upholstery fabric, or a, you know, like for curtaining, but they've been washed and battered enough that they're very soft and lovely to wear. And I will show you the key features. These were made in a cotton sateen, which I think is probably an upholstery fabric, or a, you know, like for curtaining, but they've been washed and battered enough that they're very soft and lovely to wear, and I will show you the key features. These were made in a cotton sateen. I'll also point out that these were made probably in 2018 or 2019, which was my last big kind of round of dungarees, and I'm just about to start another big round of dungarees, obviously. But so they are, I'm officially too big for these, but they seem comfy enough to me, so I'm carrying on wearing them. So there's a fitted bib which has got darts at the top to give it some shaping. The shape's round to a fitted waistband, so that's a really nice shape. There's wide legs, inseam pockets, and an invisible zip at the back. There's no buttons or fastenings for these straps, so they stay at a standard length, which is the only issue I have with this. Because I'm so short-waisted, I have to wriggle a little bit to get in and out, but you could solve that by making these with loops or with buttons or buttons at the back. There's all sorts of ways that you could do it. Some people in addition have made pleats at the front instead of the gathers, which is what I thought I was going to do with my next pair, but I never made the next pair. I just stuck with these ones. I don't think there was any issues with the making of this. The ready to sew instructions are kind of brief-ish, and sometimes don't mention things like finishing or turning things, so you kind of have to have your wits about you a little bit. I wouldn't say beginner friendly pattern, but kind of experienced beginner, absolutely. And you can kind of work most things out. I think none of it's very complicated. Next one is the by hand London Leos, and I shall put the line drawing and then a twirl. So these are really kind of simple in how they're made. There's a front and a back bib, and then these enormous legs gather into them. So these are, I mean, they're properly floaty. You need a really fluid fabric for this. This is in my twirl, you'll be able to see that they're still really drapey. And that's after I've taken about 6 inches off the side and removed the pockets. So the pockets were too low for me, and I just wasn't reaching for them. Now, the colour is really good. They crease like the devil, these. But they feel really cool in temperature to wear. Their cuff is gathered into an elastic at the ankle. They're tied with these long tie straps. So yeah, really simple garment. I think they sold a pinafore add-on pattern which you paid for, but you could perfectly easily draft that yourself by adding a skirt segment to the bib, really, I think. I don't think I'll make these again. They are they're fun, but they're not really like the the dungarees of dreams in my book. And the last one I've got for you, and again I'll put in a twirl and the line drawings. These are the Helens Closet Ruby overalls, and I made these in this bonkers. I think it was called, she called it Habitat Stripe, and it came from Fleureteurs, lovely Kaylee at Fleureteurs. And so this pattern is, I kind of ummed and ahed about buying it because of this detail. So you can see it has a front bib and a back bib and straps, and then there's elastic that inserts into the side seam and round the back, so that kind of snudges it in. You have kind of a faux waistband formed by sewing onto the front bib, and then that's where you anchor in the front bib. So actually these, like the facings never peep out because they can't, they're all anchored in. And then it just has inseam pockets. They're good Helens Closet pockets. They're anchored in the waist and they're a good size. And this is the shorts version that I made. And I think I had about 2 meters of a narrow quilting cotton to have a lot left. I think I had enough to do a pair of pocket bags at the end of it. So these were made in either September or October last year, so kind of right at the end of any season when you could wear shorts, dungarees, and so they haven't been worn very much. I'm not sure that these aren't a bit too, I don't want to say like play school presenter, do you know what I mean? I think it's that combination of shorts and the stripe maybe. But I do, you know, they make me smile. I like wearing them. I have enough things in my life that I can wear them for where I don't feel that anybody's judging me for not being grown up in the clothes that I wear. And so I shall put a twirl in so that you can see how they fit. I think Sally, who's the Yorkshire sewist, was asking about the fit of these across the front, and actually I think these are a really nice shape to wear. And as I say, I'm just about to make my sister some in a starry cotton fabric. Right, so I'm now going to talk about the 3 patterns I haven't yet made, show you some fabrics that I might be making them from, and reiterate that I'm not making any promises about when these are going to happen. So pattern number 1 is the Otis overalls, the pattern that started all of this. Let's make some more dungarees of a different style completely. So these were released a couple of years ago. I really liked the pattern when they came out, just didn't feel that I was quite cool enough to wear it. Obviously my opinions of that has changed because I'm actually going to make it. I don't think they have really. I think I just think, well, I'll give it a go and see what happens. So there's a picture of what the Otises look like. They're very gathered at the back. It's a drawstring waist. It's just started to rain and I have at least 2 loads of washing outside. So the Otises have a bib, a waist seam that sits at high hip rather than at the waist, and then a tie back. They have a lantern shaped leg, which is very cool, and obviously can be made in different fabric weights. I think they suggest something mid-weight, and they're also keen to point out that they do have a drop crotch and that the lantern leg ends just above the ankle, and if you wanted to take the crotch up, you just need to be a bit careful that you've still got enough ease and room for moving and sitting. So they reckon about 2 inches or 5 centimeters to allow that to happen. So I just need to kind of keep that in mind. I have an AO printout of a single size in this, so we'll see how we get on with that. But that was kind of one of my birthday presents. I decided I was going to kind of step out of my comfort zone and make something that was a bit unusual for me. Now the fabrics that I have to make this in are ones that you have definitely seen before. So there's this, which is the house linen fabric, linen twill fabric called Deep Ocean maybe, from Fabworks Mill, which is a really nice fabric. It's very droopy, which is going to do me favours when it comes to doing all those gathers. I'm hoping that the gathering in that back won't be too bulky over my bottom. The other fabric that has been waving at me for these is this though. So I'll just show you this and you can tell me how insane I am. So this is a Ruby Star Society Melody Miller, which is done in turquoise with pink fruits and little green leaves with gold accents. It's a Melody Miller, if I didn't say that already. And I just kind of quite like that idea, but we'll see. I'd quite like this fabric makes me really happy, so I'd quite like to get it sewn up into something. I mean, I could just do something simple like a saguaro set, or I don't know, something like that, or a shirt dress or something, because that would get it kind of out of the stash and into the wardrobe, which is what I kind of want to do. But
We'll see. I'm going to leave it in my sewing room because I think that normally helps me get things sewn up. Behind door number 2 is the Burnside bibs, or are the Burnside bibs? Anyway, the Burnside bibs, which have been about for donkey's years. There are 2 versions. So there's a version with a more gathered back, very like the kind of the back of the Otis's, or with a less gathered back with darts and a zip, and that's probably what I'm going to make. So you can also choose between a scooped bib and a straight across bib, and then there's some quite dramatic pockets, and I'm thinking probably the scooped bib, but we'll play it by ear and see. I'm quite excited for these ones. I know that lots and lots of people have made these, and I kind of didn't realise that there was a kind of slimmer fitting back to these. So we'll see how we're going to get on. So I've got a couple of things for this. So the first is a fabric that I've used really recently, which you'll know, which is this kind of 100% cotton, heavier than shirting, certainly. It might have been Scrubs fabric 3 years ago, maybe. It's got that kind of thickness to it. Obviously creases, but I thought because those wrap dungarees are not going to be one that's going to be a daily wearer, then it would be fine to have Burnsides made in the same colour. That being said, I have worn those wrap dungarees at least twice a week since I've made them, so we shall see. And the other possibility is this, which is, I'm probably not going to go straight in with this. This is a Tellier Brunette cotton linen, which I bought at the end of last year, I think. Really nice fabric, lovely kind of slubby texture, really nice kind of enough structure, a kind of light but without being too light. Really nice. Love that, and love the colour of it too. It's really pretty. Then my third linen is one that's going to be either, it could be any of these depending on which one I decide I like, and it's this lovely kind of burgundy raspberry colour, again proper linen, light to medium weight, so got kind of plenty of movement to it, really nice quality. Can't remember where this came from, but it's beautiful. Yeah, and it isn't blue. I know, Deb in making something that isn't blue, shocker. I quite like the burgundy with that tealy colour as well.
Pattern number 3 that I haven't made yet is the Heydays Dungaree from Waves and Wild. Again, another sewist favourite. Everybody's made this part for me, I think. I haven't made it because I really like the Yanto overalls, which I showed you earlier on. So there is a bib that joins onto the body, so that's all one piece front and then all one piece back. I don't know if it's got a seam down the front, actually, it probably has. Ties into loops, so these are the ones that I really like, the Lucy and Yak dungarees that were kind of a really big thing a few years ago, and this was a pattern that you could do to get like something that looked very similar. I bought this because I was trying to get my sister to sew garments as opposed to just things for the house, but I failed completely. I don't think that this is particularly more difficult, to be honest, than making the cushions and the other things that she makes. I think she could probably make this, which was my plan, but I haven't succeeded so far. In fact, she's just asked me to make a pair of ruby short overalls, and I have some fabric coming for that for her. So the fabrics I have to show you for this are a couple of, you'll be surprised, they're linens, and they're kind of blues and greens. I know, I'm quite predictable really. So the first is a much heavier weight linen, which came from Wild Orchard, Lottie at Wild Orchard. This is a really lovely fabric, and actually would be really nice. It would make a really nice summer blazer and a pair of landers. Actually, I've got about 3 meters, I think, in a couple of pieces. But yeah, this would also make the really nice Heydays, because they don't have to, like, there's not lots of seams and lots of additions to do. So actually, I think they would probably be very trans-seasonal. And look what a lovely colour it is. Really nice colour. Sorry if I bash the mic. The other one is this, which is a Merchant & Mills linen called Altamara. Now this is a whole another level of linen. The colour is phenomenal, obviously, and it just is like, it's the perfect combination of lightness and weight. It's just lovely. It's so nice. So I made about 3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I probably made a lichen duster, which is a So Liberated pattern. I bound all the seams inside with handmade bias tape. I'll put a picture if I've got one. And that garment definitely doesn't get worn enough. In fact, I might have to go and dig it out and wear it tomorrow. It's a really beautiful thing. And so then I have a couple of meters of this linen left over. So the question is always what I do with it. And the answer is I won't be diving in with anything that I haven't already made. But, you know, there you go. That certainly is an option. Hand on heart, probably not going to happen for a Heydays. One of the other ones, if you know, if they're very lovely, might end up being that. Or I might just make a hinterland in it. We'll see. Any advice about the ones I'm making? Have you got any top tips for me for these ones that I'm still to make? I hope wherever you are in the world, you will find time to rest and replenish and do some making if that's something that brings you joy. I shall be around with another video shortly, and I have an exciting announcement coming very soon. I shall be taking you on a bit of an adventure with a sewing theme. So yeah, subscribe if you want to hear what that's all about. Bye for now.